good morning, and welcome to another one of our live podcasts. This is your boy, your men's life coach, Rolando, and we are so happy that you've decided to be a part of our conversation one more time. It's a Tuesday. The theme is transformation. Take Back Tuesday, rather. The theme is Take Back Tuesday. And today we are continuing our conversation about mindset medicine. Mindset medicine. And we want you guys to feel free to join in our conversation at any time. Just wanted to remind you that the xyspark podcast is a podcast for men where we seek to normalize conversations about men's mental health because we know that mental health is not a myth. And wherever you are around the planet, we wanted to know that we are here weekday mornings live at 5:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. So whether you're joining us live on TikTok or you are joining the conversation on the Podbean app at xyspark.podbean.com or you are joining us live on YouTube, we appreciate you. And we want to continue to encourage you to please like, share, and subscribe to our channels, or YouTube channel, or TikTok, or Instagram. We are all over the internet. We are there on Snapchat, on TikTok. But for now, right now, in this present moment, there are three places that you can join us live every weekday morning at 5:30. It's on TikTok, YouTube, and on the Podbean app. That's xyspark.podbean POD for Dean, okay, Podbean, B for Barry, EAN.com, and we appreciate you. We also offer live coaching calls right here on the podcast. So wherever you are and whoever you are, thank you. Yesterday we spoke about mindset medicine, and today we wanted to continue that conversation. And if you are joining us live, we'd like you to just type in the chat where you're joining us live from because we value your presence and we value your participation. So wherever you are joining us live from, please type in the chat so we can send a shout out your way. So I'd like us to jump into continuing our conversation about mindset medicine. Last time we were here, we chatted about four things that we want to identify, which is right there in the irrational thinking patterns. Today, we're going to share some more things as it relates to irrational thinking patterns. So, big point number one is remember yesterday we finished off by talking about the fear of disapproval or criticism, and having this irrational thinking pattern, guys, help us to feel that we need everybody's approval. So you live your life as a people pleaser. Are you that man who you're into people pleasing? Is that something that you dedicate your life to doing? Over time, that's going to wear you down. That's going to make you feel less and less and less. Why? Because you don't know yourself. You have no standards, you have no values, you're just living your life trying to appease everybody else. And we want us to understand that this is an irrational thinking pattern that needs to be addressed. But let's move on into the other pieces. Now, the next irrational thinking pattern that we have is that fear of rejection, the fear of rejection. So many of us as men, we fear rejection, and that fear of rejection causes us to have thoughts like, you know what, I if I'm not loved, then life is not worth living, right? And this kind of thinking has caused many men to decide to go and take their own lives, right? Because of this fear of rejection. If I'm not loved, then I'm not worth living. If you are a man and you're having these kind of thinking habits, it's an irrational thinking habit that you need to seek to address, right? So that fear of, hey, if I'm not loved, then I'm not worth living. I want us to pause and just recognize that this kind of thinking is harming our psychological and emotional well being. We as men, we have got to challenge those irrational thinking patterns. Remember, here's the reality, guys. Not everybody in the world is going to love you. That's not normal and that's natural. If you are that guy who in your mind you're thinking everybody's supposed to like me because I'm the nicest guy on the planet, that's an irrational way of thinking and you're setting yourself up for failure. So why focus on all the persons that you think do not love or care about you when there are persons who actually love and care about you? And the $1 million question is, do you love and care about yourself? If you have not been kind to yourself, if you have not been giving yourself grace, if you have not been forgiving yourself, if you have not been presenting yourself as someone that is lovable and trusting and trustworthy, do you expect that person's people are going to love you if you're someone that has broken somebody's trust over and over again? Then that means you need to work on yourself. And the easy way out, guys, is to quit and not do the work. The empowering way is to acknowledge where it is that you have gone wrong and take ownership of that and make a commitment to do something differently. But giving up and quitting and saying, hey, if nobody loves me, I'm not lovable, then that's a problem because, listen, man, you've got to realize that if you want to be loved, you have to first be lovable. You have to care for yourself better. You have to start doing things differently. Stop making excuses. Stop blaming the government. Stop blaming your family. Stop blaming the community. Your mental health is your responsibility. And mindset makes a man or breaks a man. So you have responsibility to yourself first, to work on yourself first, and be consistent in doing the work that needs to be done so that you can heal and grow and get away from this irrational thinking of where you're thinking, hey, if I'm not loved, then life is not worth living. That's an irrational thinking pattern. And I need you to challenge that. Here is the next irrational thinking habit that sometimes as men we get into. And, this one is a big one. Listen to this one: the fear of being alone. So many of us, we have that fear, the fear of being alone. And that fear, says, hey, if I'm alone, then I'm miserable. But as men, we have got to learn, and I'm talking also to all my female followers because I know I have some female followers out there. I see you, Ali. Good to see you. Ali's joining us live on TikTok. And just resetting the room here, guys, to let you know that the xyspark podcast is a podcast for men where we seek to normalize conversations about men's mental health. And we are here live every weekday morning at 5:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, where we're seeking to create a safe space for men. For all our female followers who join us weekday mornings, we appreciate your presence too. And wanted you guys to also know that we do offer live coaching calls right here in the moment on the podcast. So if there's something that's going on that you'd like us to talk about, this is your space, this is your time. Let's dive into it and let's do it. Okay? So the next irrational thought pattern that we're talking about, what we're talking about here is under the caption today, we're talking about mindset medicine. Under the theme today is Take Back Tuesday. So if you're tired of living in that world of irrational thinking, this is a space where we're exposing some of those. So if you have that fear of being alone, where you're saying to yourself, if I'm alone, then I'm miserable, it's time for us as men, and even for the women who are here, learn how to enjoy your own company in a healthy way. Learn how to process and experience self validation. Learn how to be kind to yourself. Stop chasing after validation from outside of you, right? Work on your self esteem. Work on your personal perspective about yourself. Get to know yourself better. Stop running away from your reality. Celebrate your successes. Take some time to reflect on the positive things that you've done in your life. No matter who you are or what's going on, think about something good that you did yesterday. Think about something good that you already did today. It might even look like, hey, you know what, today I got up out of bed and I took the time to pay attention to my hygiene. That's something to celebrate. That's something for you to own and to feel good about yourself for. But get away from this space where, hey, if I'm alone, I'm miserable. Remember, mindset is what matters. Mindset is what makes you or breaks you. The next irrational thinking that we have is the fear of failure. The fear of failure. You know, I was listening to an interview with world three-time world Olympian Usain Bolt, and Usain Bolt said this. Usain Bolt says you have to learn how to fail so that you can learn how to win. And he was shared his story, and he's talked about the first time when he showed up to be a part of the Olympic team in Athens. He said he did not even make it past the first round. That's how terrible he was. But he said he went back and he put work into it. So that when he came back the next time around, he actually came back being a real competitor. But he said it did not happen. He said it was hard work. So, guys, you see that fear of failure where you're saying my work depends on my achievement. Remember this, you have to learn how to fail before you learn how to win. Failure is not final. One guy said it this way: failure is not final, it is finding ground. So as you engage and as you are on your path, stop telling yourself that, hey, I am fearful of failure. Did you fail? Or should you see that as an opportunity to be utilized as a stepping stone to get you towards your goal? So that fear of failure, where we're saying my word depends on my achievement, it's an irrational way of thinking. And we want to take some time to work on that. We want to take some time to challenge that. We want to take some time to change that so that we can evolve into becoming better versions of ourselves. The next thing that we want to recognize, guys, is the conflict phobia. This is another irrational thinking. Conflict phobia. And what is that? It's people who love each other shouldn't fight. You know, sometimes in our relationships we tell ourselves this, that hey, if we're fighting now, let me make it clear. If you're in a relationship and you're fighting all the time, then you guys need to get counseling. You guys need to get help. You guys need to reach out and not normalize fighting in your relationship, right? Everyday fighting, that's excessive. But if you and your partner agree to disagree at times, it does not mean that you don't love each other. All right. And I want to say that to you loudly and clearly. Men, do you hear me now? This is not me putting it out there and say, hey, you should be fighting. But yes, you and your partner are going to have disagreements. You're going to agree to disagree. But it does not mean that you don't love each other. Sometimes it's out of those conflicts or those fights that you learn things about your partner that you did not know. Own it, recognize it, and then make the effort to work towards not letting it be a recurring decimal in your relationship. But this idea where there's a conflict phobia, where you're saying people who love each other shouldn't fight, get away from that. It's an irrational thinking pattern. And if you know any couple who tells you, hey, my wife and I, we don't disagree and stuff, or we don't, because remember, guys, there's a dirty way to fight and there's a clean way to fight, right? And a lot of persons don't recognize that the dirty fighting is when there's name calling, there's disrespect, there's talking down to your partner, there's physical abuse, there's emotional. That's a dirty way of fighting. But there's clean ways That's you fight sometimes with your partner, right? And those fights are fights where you create a safe space to have those tough conversations in your relationship, whereby it helps both of you to grow closer together and to grow in the way you relate and connect with your partner. So if there's that conflict phobia where you're saying to yourself, people who love each other shouldn't fight, we want to work on that. The next one is what we call an emotophobia. Emotophobia. That is a phobia where it says, hey, I should not feel angry, I shouldn't feel anxious, I shouldn't feel jealous, etc., etc. Sometimes we get into that space where we have that emotophobia where I'm thinking, hey, I should not feel angry. Remember, anger, anxiety, jealousy, they are emotions. They're necessary emotions. The thing that we want to recognize is that someone who feels jealous is not sick. There's jealousy and there is extreme jealousy. There is jealousy that gets to the point of, hey, you know what, I'm extremely insecure and I'm controlling. That's the next level jealousy. But all of us have some jealousy of some kind. If you're in a relationship and there's no form of jealousy or feeling towards a person, maybe you're not in the right relationship. Maybe you need to find someone who you at least have some feeling of jealousy, but not a jealousy that creates where you are possessive or you are clingy. All right, that's next level. Anger is a necessary emotion, but when the anger becomes harmful is when it explodes into aggression and you're hurting the people in your life that you love, or you're hurting yourself, right? Every one of us experience some anxiety every now and again, right? Me every morning before I come to talk to you guys, I have some anxiety about it, but I'm also excited to come here and create this safe space for you guys to come on in and let's talk about how do we create a safe space for men to talk about their mental health. Now, the next one is a big one, and we could spend the rest of the day talking about this. But another irrational thought pattern that we have sometimes that is not good mindset medicine is entitlement. Yes, I said it. If you're a man or you're a woman and you are in the space where you feel entitled all the time, you have an irrational thinking issue that needs to be addressed. People should always be how I expect. That's an entitlement mentality. That's irrational. And recognizing it is a powerful first step towards doing something about it. And we can even teach our children to come up with this entitlement mentality. And when we teach our kids like that, they do not learn how to cope with stress. And if you're a man who you grew up that way, no wonder you are struggling to manage stress because of that entitlement mentality where you think that things should always go your way. That is what is harming you, and that's what's harming your relationships. And you have to work on that because that entitlement mentality is destroying your ability to build healthy relationships, to grow, and to become better. Guys, this is your boy, your men's life coach, Rolando. Thank you for joining us once again right here on the podcast, the XY Spark podcast, the podcast for men, where we seek to normalize conversations about men's mental health. Today, you listen to part two of our, presentation about mindset medicine. We encourage you to continue to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us here on TikTok. Follow us, subscribe to our podcast on YouTube. We'll see more episodes that's similar to this. You can also like and share and listen to our podcast on the XY Spark podcast at xyspark.podbean.com. You'll find us on Amazon Music, you'll find us on iTunes and on Spotify. We appreciate your time and we thank you for joining us here on the podcast one more time. But just before we go, we just want to encourage you and remind you that go out there and never forget this, that personal development is not an event, it's a lifestyle. As you go out there and seek to celebrate this lifestyle, grow, evolve to become the best version of yourself. Why? Because at XY Spark, we believe that there is a spark in you, and we will see you again on our podcast tomorrow morning. Have a great day.